what in the world was that little pop-up list?
That is one of the most awesome things that I love about Visual Studio, and there are other coding editors that have it too, but it's called IntelliSense. And what IntelliSense does for you is when Visual Studio knows you're working with a string variable, when you hit that little dot to type in upper, it actually is intelligent enough, hence IntelliSense, to know, oh, wait, you want to call one of the functions to manipulate that string.
Yep.
And Visual Studio knows all the valid functions. So it will actually pop up a little box for you that lists every single function you can choose from. So this is great. So you don't have to remember exactly how something's typed or the exact spelling. Like, was that case swap or swap case, or was that to upper or upper? Little details like that, it'll be right there in the IntelliSense. So that basically, and it's great for lazy coders because instead of having to type the function name, I can just select it from the list.
Exactly. Yeah. And in fact, here, let me, I think the best way to sort of see this is to go in and do it.
Yeah, I think a demo is good for this.
Exactly. So let's just kind of go right back to our country.upper, and I'm just going to eliminate that, and I'm just going to do it again. So we'll just go ahead and say country equals, and let me go ahead and say country, and then you'll notice that if I hit my dot here, now what you're going to notice is that I get that little list of available methods or functions that I can now use. So what I could do is I could say country dot, and then you'll notice that as I start typing, it'll automatically start highlighting what it thinks I want. So since I typed the letter U, it's thinking I probably want upper. Makes sense. Now, you'll also notice dot U. Ooh, something cool happened. Let's do that again. So I hit a dot, typed U, and you'll notice that upper was highlighted.
It was.
Now, I could double-click.
Yeah, if you're a mouse person, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to click the value you want from that list. But if you're a keyboard person, because some people like to do everything with the keyboard.
Exactly. So if I say U, and if I type the next special character, like a parenthesis, like a dot, that I want after that, it will automatically complete that.
Cool.
So you'll notice that I went paren, and it automatically completed that.
So you typed, so after the U, you typed an open parentheses.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I can go in and I can say country equals country dot U, or dot U, open paren, close paren. So right there, I've saved myself from having to type out PPER. I've saved myself 4 whole keystrokes there.
And score points for the lazy programmer.
Oh, absolutely.
You can use the Enter key as well, though, can't you?
You can use the Enter key. So you can say U and then hit that. And that, but it just won't give you that paren.
The open parentheses. Okay.
And you also can say tab as well, and that will also work.
Enter key, tab key, but the advantage of the parentheses is that it gives you the opening parentheses.
Exactly.
So. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. So with that, you're going to notice here that we've got a list of some different functions here. And
all right. This is interesting.
What it is that they do. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of leave it there, and I'll skip right to the answer.
Oh, you're going to the answer. Okay. So we're going to reverse engineer.
Well, sort of.
Doing?
Yeah. So the first big thing that I want to highlight is we're obviously not going to go through every single function that's available.
No, that would take a very long time.
We'd be here a lot longer than 2 days.
Yes.
The second thing is, and this is really the main goal of the slide here, is you're going to notice that a lot of this is intuitive. So you're going to notice, for example, something like replace. What does replace mean in English?
It means replace one thing with something else.
Yeah, it means swap it out. Yeah, exactly. So you're going to notice that we said replace hello, come here, with hi. And so sure enough, when I go in and I take a look, that's exactly what happened. Now, you're also going to notice that we've got capitalize, which would have put in that capital H there, which we happen to already have. So that's why we're kind of getting that little display. It hasn't changed, but it would capitalize, put in that first little H. You're also going to notice that we've got count, and let me escape out just to clear out my screen here. And so count, of course, is going to count the number of O's that happen to appear.
Okay.
Now, the one that's maybe a little bit different than what you would expect is find. Now, find, of course, is going to, well, find something. But the question then becomes, well, what's it going to return?
Yeah. How is it going to tell me if it found the word world inside that string?
Exactly. So let's reverse engineer here. Let's take a look at the number that we got. So the number that we got was 6. All right. Well, what's the significance of 6? Well, you're going to notice right up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you're going to notice that there was 6 characters before world.
Okay.
So it's telling us the number of characters that came before whatever it is that we tried to find. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, we got counting based on zeros, so it's really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth, and
I was
6.
going to say, it's actually telling you it's a nice way to remember it, though in fact it's telling you the number position of the first letter of the string
Exactly.
that you're returning.
Exactly. Yeah, that in fact, if I go back and I do this again, and I started with the 1, 2, 3, just to try to keep it a little bit simpler. Yeah. But counting in Python, like in most programming languages, starts with 0. So you'll notice that it's actually 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally 6.
Right.
So what it's giving me is it's giving me the position.
Where
Starting position,
where what it was searching
where
for.
that word world is. Now, that's something where you might look at that and you might kind of go, well, all right. But you are going to notice that that is pretty consistent throughout every programming language. That if you're working on a lot of curly-based languages like C# is like this, where it's got index of works just like find here. So again, going back to something that we mentioned before, that what we're trying to do is really kind of teach you these concepts. And so find, like index of. Now again, we're not going to memorize everything.
Yep.
So how do we go in and find them? IntelliSense, and honestly, that's
IntelliSense is great.
Probably the best. When in doubt, type the name of the variable, hit dot.
Yep, and see what pops up.
Exactly. There is documentation.
Yep.
F1 can help you. And then, of course, internet searches.
Absolutely.
Stack
Nothing
Overflow,
wrong.
Bing, just www.bing.com, type in whatever it is that you want.
I want to convert a string to uppercase and see what comes back on your internet search. And make sure you specify the programming language.
Yes.
I am a Python, how to convert string to uppercase. And you will find a link to documentation or a blog post or something in Stack Overflow with some suggestions.
Exactly.
Almost every time.
Yep. Yeah, that's really the way to go. So with that, let's talk a little bit about something like, what happens if they entered in a postal code and we want to convert into uppercase letters.
Because in Canada, postal codes follow a pattern of letter, number, letter, number, letter, number.
Yep.
But they are supposed to be all uppercase.
Yep. And so sure enough, you're going to notice, you can just simply do that to upper. And we've actually already done a demo on to upper. Yeah, so I think we're good there. And you are going to notice that every now and then, IntelliSense doesn't appear.
And that's annoying. You start relying on it, so when it doesn't appear, you're like, where's my IntelliSense? Bring it back.
And there can be a lot of reasons for this. Sometimes it's because you've got a bug earlier on in your code, you mistype something. And sometimes, and we talked about this earlier, that with variables, you can just simply declare them on the fly. And when Python runs, it will figure out what that variable type is, which is fantastic, when it runs. But unfortunately, at that moment, Visual Studio can't always figure out what's about to happen. And you see this with Python, you see this with JavaScript. And so sometimes what you need to do is just sort of seed, if you will, Python.
Give it a hint.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of tell it what it is that you're doing. And so you'll notice right here that what we did was we just went in and we said postal code equals, and then an empty string.
Yep.
Or put a space in it. Either way would have worked.
Would have worked, yeah.
But, just put something in there that's a string, and so then from there on forward, it will know that it's a string. So you kind of told it right up front, hey, this is going to be a string, and then it was able to go in and treat it as such.
Yeah, that actually came up earlier in the Q&A. Somebody was like, hey, my IntelliSense isn't popping up, and I'm not sure why. Said, if you have a variable name, and you hit the dot to try and bring up the functions to manipulate the contents of that variable, to work with that variable, how can Python know if you're working with a string or a number or a date?
Exactly.
You have to give it a hint.
Yep.
So if it's not popping up and you want that IntelliSense, you might, one of those good habits, you may want to declare your variables ahead of time or create the variables ahead of time with the correct data type. So later in your code, when you're accessing the functions, you get that IntelliSense.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool.
So I've got good news and I've got bad news.
Uh-huh.
Good news is functions are very powerful, can help us out.
Yeah?
Bad news is gives us new opportunities to go in and make mistakes. So you are going to notice that each little line there does have a mistake. And if we just kind of kick through them here real quickly with hello world, what is it?
I think you're missing quotes around the string hello world.
There you go. And with the next one?
The variable name 23 message is not a valid. We cannot start a variable name with a number.
Yep. And then on the next one?
A variable name, I think that's intended to be a single variable called new message.
There you go.
And so you can't have a space in your variable name.
All right. I'm going to skip the next one, and I'm going to go down to item 5 there.
That's a sneaky one, and it's the kind of thing that gets you. I forgot an S in my variable name. And so there is no variable MESAGE. That should have 2 S's.
Okay. And next?
This is a sneaky one. You know what it is? Because the syntax looks good, but the count function expects me to tell it what character I want to count. So I forgot to pass it the value that I want to look for and count.
And you're also going to notice right up here, along those same lines, kind of a sneaky one, you're going to notice no parentheses are there. And that's what that problem is.
I make that typing mistake so often in my code. That's probably one of my most common mistakes, is I forget to put the open close parentheses, and you get these weird error messages, and you're going, why is it complaining about line 6 of my code? And on line 5 of your code, you forgot the open and close parentheses.
Exactly. Yep. So let's kind of come back right over here to my system. So kind of a couple of rules here. Number 1, if you're using a function, you must have parentheses.
Yep.
That's number 1. But number 2 is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to type out count. And what you're going to notice is that when I go in and I open up that parenthesis, you're going to notice that I get a little bit of inline documentation as well. Now, unfortunately, it's not always as clear as you might want. You're going to notice that it says return the number of non-overlapping occurrences of substring in string s start end.
That's clear as mud.
Okay,
Meaning not clear at all.
Yeah.
But it does at least give you a hint that I have to enter a value.
It does.
This is the point where if I wasn't sure what to do, I'd go and I'd do an internet search and I'd find some code examples where someone had written me a nice blog post explaining what it did.
And that's really it. Yep.
That's what we do.
Exactly. Okay. So, what do you say we close this off and give everyone a challenge here?
Yes, we need a challenge.
So your challenge is create that program that allows somebody to personalize a story. So take a page from a book or just make up a story. You know, blank ran up a blank with a blank.
Yep.
There you go. And then prompt people, kind of, you know, old little school where you filled in the little blanks there. Go ahead and prompt people to punch in a name, a noun, an adjective, a verb, whatever it is that you want, and then display that story out. And then again, for extra credit, you could go in and try to correct things like casing and so forth. But I really say kind of focus in on that top one, those top 2 bullet items right there.
That's just said. It is extra credit. If you once you get that working, then go back and see if you can add the extra functionality.
Exactly. So, and again, if you get a little stuck, you know, feel free to go ahead and grab the solutions that we have inside of
But remember, our suggested solution. You may come up with a solution that is even better than ours, and that's all good.
And that's it. So congratulations. You can all now write a program that's going to interact with a user.
Yes. Congrats.
Excellent. So what do you say we take 10?
Yeah.
And then let's come on back and let's talk about something other than strings.
Yes. Because I think when we want to get to the next level of power, we need to work with numbers, and we need to figure out what we can do with those. So we're going to take ourselves to the next level and start messing with some math.
All right. We'll see you guys back here in 10 minutes.